This one here is a 1924 8-valve factory racer. These bikes were produced by the factory just for the factory riders. They were never, ever sold to the public. A road bike was about $350 in a day, and the 8-valve bikes were $1,500. They were made of unobtainium. It was Harley's secret weapon, and they didn't want anyone getting a hold of that engine. And when these bikes became obsolete, they believe they only produced about 20, but Harley had standing orders because Harley factory owned these engines to have the engines destroyed, mainly the cylinders, because of the overhead valve configuration. And Harley didn't do overhead valves. 4 valves per cylinder, started in 15, but they actually made it for their road version in the year 2000 on the V-Rod. So that's how advanced this stuff was.
So what would a bike like this be worth?
This particular bike has reproduction cylinders, and the reason is currently there's only 4 documented 8-valves in the world. One just came out of Australia 2 years ago, and it sold just at $500,000. So a real documented bike. You can look it up on the internet, about $500,000.
We talked about motorized bicycles. None of these bikes that you've shown us here have any suspension whatsoever.
Yeah, they actually do.
Really?
The gray Harley-Davidson has no suspension, but in that year they have telescopic forks. So if this bike was running a board track, basically with no bumps, it would be a rigid front end. If next week they were running a dirt track, they would fit it with a clutch in the rear wheel, which this bike has, and probably put telescopic forks. Now, the Flying Merkel is so advanced that it has 3 inches of travel right here. So it has a Springer front end that goes up and down. And it is so advanced, there is an actual picture in the American Racer dated 1924 of a factory Harley-Davidson rider. Like this bike, which everybody misses, has Flying Merkel forks, which is unheard of. Flying Merkel went bankrupt in 1916. 1924, the factory Harley-Davidson stole the forks and put it on their bike and painted them green.
Wow.
These are Flying Merkel forks.
Yeah, if you take a look
can see
at the camera, they are very similar.
They're not very similar. They're the same.
Flying Merkel forks.
They're the exact same.
Yeah.
Can you start this one up?
I sure can.
That would be great.
Okay. All right, stand by.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dave has got some collection, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like he's dealing in bikes, too.
Visualize riding on one of these things at 80 miles an hour.
No, I can't. I can't imagine being on a bike like this. I mean, it's hard enough to imagine being on a bike, period, at high speed, let alone imagine being on a bike on a wood track racing that looked like this.
Well,
in the early days.
That's the other thing. We're talking about try riding motorcycles, racing motorcycles on what were essentially the same type of wood floors as a basketball court.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's what he's saying caused so many infections.
Yeah. And those days, the only antibiotic available was sulfur. Penicillin had not yet been pioneered. That came in the 20s.
By the way, Matt's not a doctor, but he did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
That's common knowledge.
I understand. It was a joke, Matt.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to pump the bike a bunch, and
Yeah, you got to put oil in a top tank. It's a total loss system. You pump about 3 pumps into the engine, and it actually blows it out a little pipe and oils the chain. So if you don't pump oil into the engine, it'll seize up.
All right, so
it's kind of like a 2-stroke.
Well, it doesn't burn the oil. It blows it out of the engine. It's a 4-stroke engine, but it just uses the oil. And that changed in 1929. Harley went to an internal system that kept the oil more like an automobile and not blowing it out all over the road and all over the rider.
I noticed you got ear protection there. I feel like there's only ear protection for 1 and 3 people need it. So what are you doing there?
I'm just priming the engine, so it's just easier to start. And sometimes it'll catch on fire.
Oh, all right.
It's your job to put it out.
Okay, my job to put it out.
Where's the extinguisher?
I don't know.
Actually, there's one right here.
Okay, there's the extinguisher. This is going to be loud. I promise you that. You guys ready for this? This is going to be insane. I don't have to get that
Couple of things I was
That's
pointing out
amazing.
while you were racing the engine. Number one,
Yes.
no exhaust pipes. The exhaust is coming out right at your right leg.
Yeah, Harley actually went in the wrong direction. On the 1916, they had very short pipes, and they thought a very short wheelbase would handle better, which really is incorrect, and no pipes would work better, which is really incorrect. But you have to remember the year. Early 20s, they were still experimenting. I've raced this bike in Washington, Ohio at the Fulton County Fairgrounds, and I'll tell you something, it's a scary, scary machine.
You've raced this bike?
Yeah, I've
You're out
had
of your mind.
2 major fires with the bike, and as you can see, this port right here burns the back of your leg, and then you're really racing in the heat of battle with other people. It's a real race. My old motocross days give me flashbacks to catch the guy in front of me, and then your leg is hurting you a little bit, and then when you get into the pits, you know, at the race, you take your boot off. I mean, I had almost a 3rd-degree burn, and it took 3 months to heal, and you don't really feel that. And I raced it a second time and almost got the same thing. Catastrophic fire because of the open ports. If there's any fuel anywhere, instant fire. I've had 2 of them.
I like how you stuck your hand over the thing, even though you said there might be a fire over there. There were flames coming out, and the Terrifics wanted to know. They've got a lot of questions. How bad are the brakes? And then is there any place to put your legs and rest your legs? And your legs are right next to the chains. They're also, as you noticed, right next to the exhaust. And everything.
Chains on one
To
side.
answer
exhaust
some
on the other.
questions, it doesn't have brakes. Up until even today, when you race flat track, they don't have brakes. They're not required, and they're actually banned from the track.
How would you brake?
You don't need brakes. Well, you have over here a timing control where you go into the corner and you roll off the throttle, you retard it, which slows you down, or you just hit the kill button, and that bogs the bike down and slows you down. Anybody who does that is not going to win. You want to go into the corner at full throttle into a power slide, otherwise you're non-competitive. The Harley racers did one of 2 things. They won or they died. And when you think you're getting $200 to $300 a year in salary for a farmer or someone working in an automotive plant or a field, they could win $1,000 in one day. They were the first American junkies on adrenaline. First American adrenaline junkies were these guys, and they were walking home with $300, $400, $500 a race. There's a 5-mile race, a 10-mile race, a 25-mile race, a 100-mile race, and the final 300-mile race. They were the rock stars of the world. Over 10,000 spectators to see these guys do what they do.
They
And in
still
Newark,
are.
New Jersey in 1912, they killed 8 people in one race.
Wow.
5 spectators and 2 riders.
The Isle of Man, they still lose 3 riders a year on average.
Yeah. They're adrenaline junkies.
So what about is there any place to put your legs while you're riding? And then your legs are right near
on the
chain?
pedals is what you do. And a lot of them, 80, 90% at this point would have a big pillow here. There was a lot of pictures of guys bleeding from the nose and knocking their teeth out on the handlebars. Because, again, most of the bikes are rigid with no suspension.
And then what color was this originally? It was green?
It was olive drab. Harley adopted that in 1917. They got the contract to produce military motorcycles. Harley, being kind of like Henry Ford, said, hey, we're going to paint our bikes one color. It's just a lot easier because painting in the day was problematic. So military bikes were olive drab with no shine. 1917 up until the early 20s, all the bikes were olive drab, but shiny if they were a road bike.